Imagine a table. 4 legs, 1 flowery cloth draped over it. Plates and cutlery shining. A big steaming bowl of soup in the middle, surrounded by platters of juicy food. Father sitting. Uncle is pouring the drinks. Some people laugh, others pass the spices. They talk, small talk. Maybe someone says something a bit off, a bit problematic. Others ignore it, keeping up the good spirits. No one wants to spoil the meal, right? There's dessert, too. Mother brings it. The young lick their fingers. It is that good. Can you hear the glasses clink? Does this joy, this abundance, sound offbeat to you as well? You don't need to be told. You already know. Each series of actions, each material configuration holds within it so much of everything. Just pull one thread and unspool it. The table. Who set it? Who cooked the food? Who did this work? And how was it recognized, if at all? Go further. The food. Who packaged it? Who delivered it to where it grew? On what roads, over what borders? Who picked it, or if it had a heart, who killed so that you could eat? If it was part of someone, who was that someone, and who won the most out of this process? Our tightly bound lives in a globalized capitalist world speak with 1,000 voices. At each table, in every commute, every building and institution, there's power to be untangled, privilege to be attentive to, histories to unbury. We start this exploration of total liberation with the mundane scene of a family dinner. A table, and the people around it. We start like this to nod towards those spaces in our lives that nurture us, that sustain our bodies and spirits, to look at how even in those moments there's tension, buzzing in the air, connecting us to everything and everyone else. A core ecofeminist principle would be to recognize we're in relation both to those close to us and to faraway beings and things. A core anarchist principle would be to challenge the hierarchies in which we're entangled, to see and stand against them. A core anti-capitalist principle would be to see history and the present from the point of view of those workers who make it all possible. But to anchor ourselves in a path towards total liberation would require more. It would require an ethic of justice and anti-oppression inclusive of humans, non-human animals, and ecosystems. As sociologist David Pellow writes in his analysis of this concept, one thread of principles is not enough. We need to be able to weave between movements, to manifest what Angela Davis, an anti-racist activist and socialist, calls the intersectionality of struggles. The table is easy to look at. You've been at the table, you know how it's set. You grew up around it, in your mother's kitchen maybe. It's most probably your mother's or grandmother's or another woman's, as women do most reproductive work worldwide. That work that's rarely called work, that work that allows the worker to get back to his real job, that work that, if stopped, would crumble the world in its wake. The table is set because someone made it. Let's assume something. That you live in a nation-state caught up in neoliberal capitalism's tangles. That the table you sit at is made of wood carried over from decimated forests, sometimes legally, sometimes illegally. If it's an IKEA table, there's a high chance the wood comes from our region, Romania. Think, beautiful oak tabletop, sourced from an old-growth forest, home to brown bears, lynxes, and wolves. Their home is in your home now. But it's not your fault, is it? The state could better protect its natural areas if only it wasn't so tightly snuggled up with market forces. Indeed, many anarchists argue that the state's function is precisely to protect private property and to work hand in hand with capitalists. Assuming a monopoly over violence, the state decides who is in and who is out. The state legalizes what is right and what is wrong. The state becomes the only legitimate actor to protect those made weak or penalize those it finds at fault. It is the state which, by deciding the flow of resources and investments, distributes social inequality and permits the destruction of ecosystems. Activists such as Flowerbomb consider the state to be an antithesis of liberation, reinforcing laws that utilize physical force to coerce all beings into compliance. States routinely exclude beings from having rights, often constituting themselves according to national narratives that are racist and almost always invisibilizing towards non-human animals. There are many examples of states trying to order the natural world according to their anthropocentric productivist vision and establish power through the domination of land. Some examples could be the enclosure of the commons in 18th century England, the introduction of non-native species in the European colonialism of the Americas, or the widespread practice of monocultures in agriculture and forestry. Maybe you get a glimpse of how, for total liberationists, the answer to our struggles cannot be found neither from states nor capital. The table that sat in a rented apartment, on a cemented road in a polluted city, under a government that permits migrants only to underpay them, in a harsh economy that structurally disadvantages some to privilege others, creating competition and scarcity under the guise of meritocracy and efficiency, that's not the table we dream of. It's not the dinner we want. What's for dinner, then? In so-called developed countries, which often mean colonizer countries, in middle and upper class homes, the table is full of products bought from a supermarket, brought from far away. It's a complex system, and if you were some sort of alien, you'd get lost in it. Imagine these huge buildings without sunlight, full of endless aisles of colorful plastic bags, each containing a variation of what you're looking for. In wealthy areas, there's endless variations. The aisles seem to never end. Biscuits and biscuits and biscuits for as far as your eyes can see. Stacks of vegetables and fruits from all over the globe. And as you'd walk through the cold, bracing yourself towards where the fridges are, you'd find them Rows and rows of milk bottles and cartons, cheeses of many shapes, eggs and breasts, legs and wings. So many body parts, you could never taste them all. So many body cuts. Yet in a world with so many choices, some are already made for us. Even the vegan options are sometimes merely add-ins meant to make a profit for an all-encompassing market. For as consumption of vegan products grew worldwide, so did meat and dairy consumption. Having meat at the table is in many places seen as a marker of development. Yet, what kind of development is this? Towards what kind of world? Deforested for the soy monocrop plantations that became feedlot for cows, polluted from the slaughterhouses' waste, and with an increasingly unstable climate from the rise in CO2. Having privilege feels comfortable until it doesn't. But it's not your fault though, is it? You were just born here. You took what you were given. Maybe you never had access to much, and what you have, you must take. So then, take it. Take more of it, and dream of more. More, not as in endless aisles, not as in colorful plastic bags. More as in something else. A more in which you can fit in all your fullness, and in which those unlike you, other humans, other animals, other beings and ecosystems can fit too, without being destroyed and without minimizing who they are. Can we dream of the kind of more that doesn't annihilate the lives of others? An anonymous anarchist once said that
animal and earth liberation can be dealt with afterwards, precisely because their liberation is the revolution. To prioritize human liberation over non-human liberation ensures we will get neither.
Maybe you disagree, but can you still sit at the table in peace if what's on the table has been bred, born, and raised only to be killed? Can we still call it liberation if some beings' lives are entirely controlled, defined by being useful to some other beings? Can the food that feeds you really nourish you? You, not only your body, but the fullness of you. If it's ravaging forests and fields in the process, emptying and acidifying the oceans, disabling and traumatizing the workers, we talk of total liberation because we want it all. We don't want some to be oppressed for someone else's liberation. Historically, though, the concept emerged in the 90s out of the colonialist, white supremacist country known as the United States of America. Activists were trying to articulate ways of uniting animal and earth liberation with human liberation movements. They were organizing in informal, decentralized cells with consensus-based or democratic decision-making and attempting to combat all forms of inequality and oppression. The 4 pillars of total liberation, according to David Pellow, are anarchism, anti-capitalism, an embrace of direct action tactics, and the already mentioned ethic of anti-oppression inclusive of all. To these, Stephen Best's foundational definition would stress the importance of an alliance politics with other rights, justice, and liberation movements that share the common goal of dismantling all systems of hierarchical domination and remaking societies according to new democratization and ecological imperatives. Activist Laura Schleifer adds that total liberation does not center the needs of any particular oppressed group, is influenced by multiple schools of political thought, and is always trying to work in solidarity for collective liberation, rather than having privileged allies who try to help disenfranchised others to raise up to the status quo. The term itself was first used by anti-colonial Marxist thinker Frantz Fanon, as writers Sarah Colling, Sean Person, and Alessandro Arrigoni make known. Following Fanon, they add that
total liberation can only be achieved through commitment to the destruction of the colonial system through armed resistance and radical self-transformation.
Total liberation, then, is both a conceptual framework with which to dismantle social constructs that reinforce domination, such as white supremacy and the human-animal binary, and a method, choosing resistance, prefigurative politics, and direct action over lobbying and policy measures. For example, the Animal Liberation Front, a decentralized movement emerging from the UK in the 70s, and an inspiration for total liberationists, has clear guidelines for whomever wishes to claim membership to an action cell. You'd have
to inflict economic damage on those who profit from the misery and exploitation of animals, to liberate animals from places of abuse such as laboratories, factory farms, fur farms, etc., and place them in good homes where they may live out their natural lives, free from suffering. To reveal the horror and atrocities committed against animals behind locked doors, by performing non-violent direct actions and liberations. To take all necessary precautions against harming any animal, human and non-human. Any group of people who are vegetarians or vegans and who carry out actions according to the Animal Liberation Front guidelines have the right to regard themselves as part of the Animal Liberation Front.
You can see from these very rules how the ALF doesn't wait for the state to decide whether other animals matter or not. They treat them as persons with subjectivity by acting towards their freedom, even if it means putting themselves in danger. Rod Coronado, an indigenous American animal and environmental liberationist, who was involved in anti-fur operations, said,
"We have no obligation to any government. We have every obligation to protect the earth that gives us life and our future generations. Adherence to laws that sanction the destruction of our one home planet are crimes unprecedented in human history and demand active refusal and resistance."
His acts were part of the multi-phase Operation Bite Back, an ALF campaign targeting the American fur industry in the 90s. It caused serious economic damage to the fur industry, which was structurally torturing minks and otters. So much so that the American Enterprise Protection Act was amended, a law meant to criminalize the damage to any animal enterprise property. You see what states do? All ideas have a history, a standpoint. As such, the Total Liberation Framework came especially as a response to animal rights and environmental movements who kept elitist, patriarchal, racist, and homophobic elements of society unquestioned. As for anything born in such an oppressive context, these omissions weren't unlikely. The animal rights movement is not the first to forget about issues it doesn't directly tackle. Maybe the worst is when environmental and animal movements have fallen into eco-fascist rhetorics, misdirecting blame from the structural exploitation of resources to racialized groups. But even good intentions can go awry when animal rights activists uncritically make comparisons between animal exploitation and the enslavement of Black people, for example. It can be seen as a way of superficially appropriating struggles and reinscribing animality upon the Black body. If the Black struggle is to be looked at as an example, it can be through direct working together in mutuality, as Angela Davis calls it. Just like anti-carceral activists did when they noticed the FBI working against both movements with similar tactics, classifying Assata Shakur a domestic terrorist around the same time as they were launching Operation Backfire against the ALF and the ELF. Seeing commonality in their struggle, they created cultures of resistance to state repression. More specifically, when understanding that both animal liberationists and Black activists were being targeted by the FBI and incarcerated, they started creating networks of prisoner support across movements. Pellow notes that these include the Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army, anti-nuclear peace movements, Puerto Rican Independentistas, the Zapatista National Liberation Army, the American Indian Movement, and indigenous resistance movements in Latin America. Activists also engaged in criticism of the discourses of eco-terrorism and, to protect themselves, started practicing security culture more seriously. Ultimately, state repression in the US seems to have made it clear to different movements that they needed to work together. Maybe that's a good table to sit at? The one in which, beyond fear and difference, you break bread, share strategies, learn to survive together. There is much theoretical work still to be done to understand how being considered closer to animality affects various groups of marginalized or racialized peoples. As human supremacy is always articulated for one specific kind of human, not for all. As Black philosopher Silko notices, we have to focus on how this human figure is articulated in the first place, realizing it's not about putting the concept of species or race into our analysis forcibly, but analyzing how they were always already entangled. And yes, there's even more work to be done on the ground, building these networks of mutual solidarity across movements, differences, and borders. So, what's holding us back from setting that broader, longer, sinuous table? Is the task too great, maybe? Should we start smaller? Despite its grasp on much of the Western world's imagination, most people don't live in the US. If we are to accustom total liberation to our own spaces, we must always prize a diversity of tactics and perspectives. As an anonymous writer says,
the essential ingredient is merely that legal and illegal projects maintain strong ties with one another, thereby providing communes on the front line with the support needed to go further, all the while maximizing the level of involvement achieved by safer options.
Stephen Best as well provides a scathing critique of fundamentalist pacifism, considering that it belittles the movement's powers and cuts its possibilities. Seeing reality as ambiguous, paradoxical, dilemma-ridden, and often undecidable, he advances a pragmatic, contextualist, and pluralist method that maximizes the possibilities for struggle and progressive change. Analyzing previous movements' successes and failures, the anonymous writer of the pamphlet called Total Liberation notices that anarchistic movements are harder for the state to repress, as anyone can be part of a direct action cell, and few people can inflict a lot of economic damage if they so wish. However, they caution us to ask, what happens after an insurrection? They say we need some kind of assurance revolution won't be the death of us, aiming to answer the question posed by many of those who don't believe in total liberation. What will we put in place of the system we already have? It makes many of us suffer, some more than others, but it's here. It works for some, for others, it brings a lot of advantages. What would they possibly give them up for? They write that
pushing the boundaries of struggle means establishing viable routes of desertion from the system, both accessible and secure. In short, anarchy expands by making it livable.
this is where prefigurative politics comes into play. We can lend our bodies with grace to the slow work of the daily. We can attempt to care for diverse life and to sustain kinships beyond species, as Angela Balzano called for following Donna Haraway. There are many unheroic tasks that build up to stronger communities, from peeling potatoes for a Food Not Bombs initiative, with pasting posters for a mutual aid fund, tending to communal gardens, plants, carrying compost from here to there, to organizing do-it-yourself workshops, tool libraries, and much more. You've seen them around, they're not unusual or hard to do. As soon as we see them as part of a network of building alternatives to the capitalist state system, we gain a glimpse of how we could do things otherwise. A tiny glimpse, that is. Perhaps too tiny. Barely a candle on a table surrounded by laughter and friends, with perhaps a dog napping nearby, no owner in sight, just a cat cuddling next to him. Take a seat. Are you more comfortable now, or rather worried? Are you more hopeful, or just as hopeless? Oh yes, we have to unmake and unmake and unmake until we can make something new. And yes, we make while we unmake too, like rivers. We learn when to flow and when to chip away at the obstacles in our paths, when to burst and break, when to change and nourish. We speak and act in praise of the slow work of survival amidst chaos, trying to build our dreams while the world goes to ruin. Take strength from the figures of resistance fighters everywhere, from Ferguson to Palestine or Java to Chiapas, South Africa to Algeria, Haiti to Philippines, Brazil to Spain, and much more. Think too of animal rebels, individuals whose stories are narrated by Jason Ribal, Sarah Colling, the Resistenza Animale Collective, and others. For a start, take Camilla, a cow who escaped a small farm in Tuscany, lived in the woods until being found again, imprisoned, and only after much pressure finally liberated. Imagine for a moment what it might feel like to wander the forests for the first time. The sun's light scattering playfully as the leaves crumble under heavy hooves. As anti-speciesist activist Marco Reggio writes, the first part is to really notice the other with whom we are to be in solidarity. Without paternalism, without asking that they speak like we do. In the case of non-human animals, veganism is just one small step towards recognizing their full personhood and dignity. Many more need to be taken towards total liberation. For total liberation is a walk on an open path, endlessly forking into new directions. It's not just about the liberation of those like you, and not just about the liberation of non-human animals. That would be impossible. It's all entangled, remember? But fear not. You are not alone on this path. We will often stop to dine when we tire as friends, comrades, and companion species, both to laugh and to cry, to replenish our forces, to dream, to organize, to create, and to work towards liberation, until this table will rot into the earth, until we, too, become soil again.
So now they're telling you what to think, and now they're telling you what to do. Now they're telling you what to want, and now they're telling you who you should be too. Now they say this is the way it is, and you're wondering why it doesn't feel quite right. When they say this is the way it is, and it's no use to fight. And maybe revolution is not big and harsh and cold. Oh, maybe it's warm and soft and small. Oh, maybe it's like a little bird trying to fly for the first time, for the first time, for the first time. So now they're trying to control the weather, like they're trying to control the news. Now we can all get ourselves a new body, so we will all look the same, and then we get ourselves a new mind too. But you know that tree is not just standing there so that you can breathe. You know, life is not what you watch on TV, and maybe revolution is not big and harsh and cold. Oh, maybe it's warm and soft and small. At least I